Hi there, and welcome to the Two Random Words Podcast, where I chat with various people in creative industries, be it YouTubers, musicians, gamers, filmmakers, and other things in between. Today, I'm joined by Theo Listston.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Right. Theo is a freelance games content creator for Retro Dodo, the world's leading retro gaming website. He specializes in writing features, but also covers news and produce reviews, previews, and guides. Prior to working for Retro Dodo, he focused on his own YouTube channels, with fellow content creators Barbster360 being the most popular. Cool, we managed that. So thank you and welcome to the channel.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining. I keep saying that, but so the first question is, what got you interested in sort of creative endeavors and games media?
I mean, creative endeavors is a big question because I think sort of growing up, it was always coloring in, always doing something creative, arts and crafts and things like that. So that's kind of like where the creative side of things started. And with relation to games as well, even at that early age, it was drawing loads of pictures of Sonic and Tails. And bizarrely, I was working on something earlier today that reminded me of drawing all of the Tekken 3 characters as well. So it was like doing a lot of sort of genuine, very badly drawn arts and crafts. And then as I got older, it was, the interest came from actually reading games media, So I grew up in the UK and didn't have a huge amount of money growing up. So I had a little job that I used to do every fortnight. I used to go sticking up, which is for those, some people might not know, it's going down to the pub and like putting the pins up when all the old drunk guys are skittling.
Wow.
So yeah,
that's panged a memory, that.
And this is like pre-smoking ban as well, and I was like 12, 13, 14 going down and doing that, and it's back-breaking work, but you do it for a couple of hours, and I think I used to get paid something like 50p a man. So I used to save up that money and basically either buy games with it or the next best thing was buy magazines. So PSM2 was probably where I really got into it. I used to have like the occasional, like for a few birthdays, I'd get a copy of the official PlayStation magazine. I remember one with the demo for Crash Bandicoot 2 on, and that was my like main birthday present. And I played the hell out of that demo and read that cover issue to issue like multiple times. So it was kind of like exposure to games media from a very early age. Started writing into magazines, and they used to do competitions as well. Like you could submit scores, and this is before YouTube or like digital like capture on games consoles. So I was fortunate enough to have a TV in my bedroom that had a built-in VCR player that I could record on. So I can remember recording my Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 high scores on that, recording the whole video and then posting that off to Future in Bath.
Are you in the magazine?
I am, yeah. Oh, I should have grabbed it. It's actually up in the loft. Yeah, I've
which number is it? I might have it.
Oh, I don't know. It's the one with Matt Hoffman on the front.
Well, I don't know if I've got it, but let me know which one it is, and we can probably share it or something. But that's
cool,
brilliant.
Cool. I've got.
I was never that brave.
I'll take a picture.
Cool. I was never that. I mean, I was never that brave when I got into. I've talked about this before actually recently because I did my Final Fantasy VIII video. Issues 44, 45, and 46, and 46 was the this is official PlayStation magazine, so the PS1 days, and 46 was the one that had 4 covers, which was the Star Wars Episode 1 issue.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if you remember that. They had like Darth
yeah.
Maul, like Obi-Wan Kenobi and a Qui-Gon Jinn, and then another one had Anakin Skywalker on the front of it. And the one I had was I remember like my mum bought me the Darth Maul on the front cover, and I was like, I don't want that one. I want that one with Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi on the front of it. She had to take it back and swap it in. So yeah.
Oh no way.
Yeah, no, and I regret it now because, but like I regret it now because I think the Darth Maul one's the coolest one in the world, and I wish I had it. I think actually part of me wants to go and collect all 4 covers just so I have it. I've got
They're
one
going to be on
now.
eBay for like a tenner, surely.
Probably. I mean, most of them are relatively inexpensive. I've got most of the demos. Like a few years back, I think it's just during the pandemic, I like decided I'd buy most of the PlayStation demos. So I've got like I'm missing a few, but
that's brilliant.
They are worth playing. I was going to do some like YouTube stuff on them, do some coverage on them and stuff like that. I've got all but one versions of demo 1. So demo 1 was the one that came originally with the PlayStation, and I've got my CD which came in like a purple wallet, right? And there's another one that came in a red wallet, which was later, which had like Crash Bandicoot and stuff on it. And there's one version of that demo I don't have, which is really rare. It's the same. It's like the same packaging, but it has a slightly different number. And it's the only one I haven't got. And I keep looking on eBay just to try and find it, because it like gets packaged as the same thing. Because it looks like the same thing for all intents and purposes, but it's got an extra thing on it. I can't remember exactly what it is, but no, the one I had like Abe's Odyssey on it and stuff like that. So that was my like. I don't know if you remember that one.
I've got the pinky red cover one.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, when I go up in the loft to grab that issue of PSM2, I'll find my demo one. I've still got it all because I'm a hoarder naturally, and I'm fortunate enough to have a loft, and so much so many old consoles and things live up there. And yeah, demo one has to be included. I parted ways with all my other demos years ago. And this was another thing was. Oh, look at that!
That's the original. It wasn't my original, but that is the original one.
Yeah,
with the customer service hotline on the back of it. So,
brilliant! I love it. It's so good.
Yeah,
piece of history right there.
Yeah. So you mentioned, I think you in your email to me that you fell in love with games when you first played Sonic. So were you? Going back a bit then, so were you a Sega person first?
All right.
Yeah. No, I mean going back from PlayStation to Sonic.
Yes, yeah, of course. It made me laugh when we met the other day, and you were saying about how you had old legs, and then we all realized
I was the youngest person there.
Yeah. So I started playing Sonic. My first gaming experience was Sonic the Hedgehog 1, and I used to go to my friend Ollie's house and play Sonic 1 every day after school. And his mum and my mum were very good friends. They went to school together.
Oh, right.
So it wasn't unusual for me to sort of pop round, and Ollie wasn't there, and Jane, his mum, would let me in, and I'd go and play Sonic. And it's burnt into my mind as like one of the most scary moments in all of existence for me was playing Sonic 1 and then panicking that I'd broken the Mega Drive.
Oh, right, okay.
And so I ran down to Jane. I must have been like 4 or 5 years old. I ran down to Jane and I was like, "Oh, Jane, I'm really sorry. I've broken your Mega Drive." And she came upstairs and plugged the controller back in. And
oh, that's fabulous.
Where I'd been playing Sonic, I'd kind of
really angry. Yeah.
I moved. I jumped.
Jumped
and I bounced the controller at the same time, and I'd managed to like whip the controller lead out, but I'd completely panicked, worrying that I'd broken this Mega Drive. It was like I'm 4 or 5, and my best friend wasn't there, and so yeah, it was just a bit of a terrifying time. But yeah, ever since that point, it was like I love Sonic the Hedgehog, as you can tell. I've got Sonic in the background, and yeah, like nowadays being able to write about Sonic for work is just like dream come true stuff, even though writing guides is difficult and takes a lot of time. And I think people go, "Oh, you play games for work." It's like, yeah, that's the that is the case, but also no one has created a guide yet for things that you're going to get stuck on. So when you're
the trailblazer,
when you're banging your head against the wall, against the boss who's beaten you repeatedly for like 2 hours, you just have to keep going, because you have to complete that guide. So it's like, it is fun, but it also has, it's still hard work.
And I just did a video on Final Fantasy VIII, which is like, that's my favorite game. It's probably the most impactful game in my life. It's the most important game in my life, I guess. And I'd written it and I talked about various parts in the game. I thought, well, I need some B-roll to show the footage, and I'm like, oh god, I've got to play through the whole game now. And I didn't want to show the remaster. I wanted to show the original. So I got my memory card out from here we go. So let's just for viewers. There's my memory card, my Wild Things memory card from the 90s.
That's more than 15 blocks, right?
I think that because it was a Final Fantasy game, because all that's on there is every Final Fantasy game, and they were massive.
Yeah.
And like I had save files for most of the game, but I had to play like 5 or 6 hours of it, and like I enjoyed it, but at the same time, like I'm trying to create like a video, and it slows you down. It takes a lot longer. People don't really realize, unless they start like doing it, how long it takes to do some of this stuff.
Or just getting capture. Like I needed a screenshot the other day, and it was like half an hour of, and this is something I'm sure we'll probably talk about, of like some of the creative difficulties, but like things like Google updates, where it's like you have to have your own screenshots and not stock images and things like that. It's like I need to create this image, so I need to play it. And it's like I said, it could take half an hour, it could take you a day to reach that point. It could take you several hours to get something for Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah, it definitely did. I mean, it's one of those things as well, isn't it? Where like I've noticed this. I'm really into. Say I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a filmmaker, but I'm really into that aspect of creative stuff. And like more often than not, like I used to watch like behind the scene. Well, I still do, but like the behind the scenes, like how you do stunts in films and stuff like that. And there's I'm a big Stargate Atlantis fan, and there's an episode right at the end of the series where this guy jumps off a roof in Vegas and lands on the big crash. It's a big stunt and it's a massive crash mat, and there's like this half an hour documentary on it, and you watch the episode, and it's like 2 seconds.
Yeah,
And but it's like it's like the amount of effort put into like 2 or 3 frames of footage, but that's people don't see this. Oh, you made a half an hour video. It must have taken you half an hour to do. No,
but it sells the experience. It sells
yeah,
the entertain. If they didn't do that, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't flow, or it wouldn't.
No, exactly. And I remember listening to. I'm a big fan of. I mentioned Kadikarus.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, I listened to an interview with him about I don't know 2016, something like that. And he said, yeah, I work 60, 70, 80-hour weeks sometimes. And I remember thinking, no way, and that's not because I thought he was a liar or anything like that. I just thought, I can't understand. And then I started making my own videos. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. You know, because I mean, like, especially like I don't know what you're like as a if you can create content, if you write things first or anything like that, if you make a video, but like you'll do that, you'll think of what is in your head, and then what will happen is you'll go, oh, I've got to get the footage for that now. And it's like, I mean, I was playing something last night. I was playing, it is going to name drop a terrible game now. It's a game called The Sniper 2 on PS2.
Okay,
right?
nice.
It is the worst game ever made, right? And I watched it on Triple. You familiar with Triple Jump, the YouTube channel?
No, I don't know.
They used to be on the Yogscast, I think. So basically, they cover like
okay, yeah.
weird and the weirdest games ever and the worst games ever.
Yeah.
And I went through a period with my mate. I mean, I've got the door onto the bed. Like I've got like so much shovelware on PS2, and they like cover games that like only I know. Basically, is how it felt. It's like I'm the only person other than these guys that own this game. Exactly. And the only game like they put on there that I didn't own was this game called The Sniper 2. I was like, what is this? And honestly, it's basically like what's the phrase they use where it's like, the kid goes, oh, I want a Burger King. It's like, no, we've got Burger King at home. That kind of like, that phrase where the mum like makes your own chicken nuggets when you really want McDonald's chicken nuggets. it's some person's version of like a Hideo Kojima game. So it tries to be really clever with like, this person's really related to you, and actually it's your cloned sister that's actually here, and it's terrible, and it's like comedically bad. But the cutscenes are comedically bad, but the game is just bad. And I'm like, well, I want to make a video on this entire game, and I go all the way to the end, and you have to reset, and I'm just sitting there, just like pulling my hair out, like I hate this. I hate this so much. It's bad, but it's just I had to do it. I had to finish it, and I think it took me like 4 hours to finish the game, which should only take about 20 minutes. So
yeah,
so, yeah, no,
it's definitely. I mean, it's definitely the way that. Well, at least my creative process works is that. So prior to working for Retro Dodo, I used to make my own videos. With Barbster and with Holly, and so we had our own YouTube. Well, we still have our own YouTube channel, and we may do some more stuff further down the line. But we've both been busy with puppies and house renovations and things like that. So we will get to it. But so when we were creating videos, it was if you're doing a video review, for instance, it's like, well, you have to play the game for one, So a case in point, it was actually one that I did for the Games Cabin. Probably 2 years ago, reviewing the Ascent on PS5. So get the game. The game's like 25 hours long. Like, need to beat the game to really experience what it's about and see objectively and subjectively about like where do you lie with this game. And so you've got all your capture and everything that's going on there. And then it's the writing process. In the writing process, you're making notes across like, those 25 hours. I'd sit there with a notepad next to me and I'd like scribble down bits and pieces. And maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. And maybe this will change later on. This would be good if it develops, or it did develop. And, so you change that. So you spend all this time kind of doing like little notes and scribbles and things as you go along. And then you sit down to kind of organize that chaos of your notebook, or, if you've made notes online or whatever. And then, that writing process might take you a few hours, perhaps, maybe a day, depending on the complexity of the game and what you're trying to say, and, all of the aspects of the game. Like the Ascent is a good game. But for me, it was a definite 7 out of 10. So, which is good in, so much as from my point of view, I don't necessarily believe in the black and white. If there's gray areas, you do have to go for, find the nuance in there and really like delve deep into like systems and what works and what doesn't. So creating a review like that takes a long time.
Yeah.
So it might have been maybe like a day of writing after spending 25 hours in a week to actually play the game. And then on top of that, you're doing a video review as well. So you've got the capture to hand, hopefully, if you've played through the game. You've captured the bits that you think are relevant, and then it's a case of editing. And you might sit down and then have to edit for several days to actually get that to the point that you're happy with, and to not only make it informative and entertaining, but so that it also carries your personal voice and your take. Because I think that's quite important, that if people get to know you, and if you're honest and have integrity with the work that you're producing, people will get to know you and see you as an authority in what you write about, what you produce, and that's what you want. You don't want to just sort of be either a sensationalist or I don't know, making like clickbaity sort of reviews. Like the Ascent is no way a 2 out of 10, but there's definitely 2 out of 10 reviews kicking around out there, like stuff like that. So it's important that you do spend that time, and you might spend, so all in, that might be a week, maybe just over a week. And
probably about right.
And the video review could be 4 or 5 minutes long.
Exactly. I mean, I just did this Final Fantasy VIII magnum opus video. I'm not trying to desperately plug it or anything like that. I'm just saying it's the last thing I've worked on, and the whole thing all in all is 36 minutes long. Now, half of that is little cameos I got from other people, but I shared it, and then I think it was on Reddit or something, talking about editing, and people were asking about how long should I edit and things like that. And the consensus I've found, like certainly in the area I've been in, is it's about a minute per, an hour per minute of footage. And actually that lines up quite well with everything I do. I don't know whether that's the same for yourself, but like, and I've found that since when I started, like properly editing. I did editing when I was a young kid, but like when I properly started editing in 2019, I made terrible videos back in 2019 that are not worth watching by anyone. But it took me the same amount of time. It takes me like the same amount of time now, but I'm a lot better, if that makes sense. I don't know if you feel the same way.
You kind of you do learn and you develop, and I think that's important, is that you just keep trying. Like I've never felt 100% happy or content with every video that I've ever produced. It's like, I think if I reach that point, then you could probably stop editing, because you need to forever find fault with your own work, or not fault, but area for improvement, should we say? Things that you want to focus on. And video editing is one of those wonderful things that we can do in this day and age, where there's a million and one tutorials available. And if you've got I'm very lucky to know Barbster. We've been friends since we were like 7 or 8, something like that. And he's an incredible video editor, like one of the best. And
it's good.
And so if I got stuck with something, I could just either give him a ring or have a chat on WhatsApp or something, and just pick his brains, basically. And it's really nice, because you want to elevate yourself and bring others up with you as well, because then I'll come up with something and he'll come up with something, and we try and and I'm not even in the same solar system as James when it comes to actually creating videos, but I can still string together a good video. It's the quality. I think that's the thing, is like you look at all the aspects of what makes a good video, or the things that you enjoy about videos and what you want to create, and stick to it, and just keep plugging away, and you'll make some duffers. You definitely will, but they'll get better over time.
Have you unlisted or deleted any videos you've made? Have you done that?
No, I don't think I ever have done. I think it's quite interesting to go back and look at them. I think the only ones that I may have done is maybe on like my personal channel, where it doesn't quite line up with, like, I think I first started with YouTube probably think my earliest post would have been like 12 or 13 years ago or something, and it would have been like footage from a really shaky cam footage from a Coheed and Cambria gig, for instance.
Yeah,
Whereas it doesn't quite line up with the sort of TL gaming,
bit off
or
brand.
a
Yeah,
bit off brand.
yeah.
So until Coheed bring out their own computer game, then maybe then I'll bring it back. But but yes, you know, that's the sort of thing that's the only thing that I think I may have potentially unlisted or hidden from YouTube. But certainly all the JHT stuff, I'm immensely proud of it. And some of it's rubbish, like objectively rubbish, I guess, but also, you know, we had a lot of fun making it, and
Yeah,
that speaks for something. And I think there's you know, we were lucky enough to build a very small sort of subscriber base. I think we were just shy of like 600 or something like that, which we started it pretty much from scratch, and we went for a year where we were very sort of on it, and we were posting regularly before house renovations and puppies took over our lives. So, and yeah, with the video editing, it would be a case of, you know, I was working other jobs. I was working in property, and so I was doing it before and after work and in my lunch times, and you know, so it was tiring, but it was what I was passionate about, so it was good fun
totally
to
get
do
it.
it.
I really struggle with the between. I mean, like between an actual job, but like I get it. I mean, obviously, like I've got a day job, and like I'll do this stuff in the evening and things like that, and if I've got any time off or whatever. I think I'd argue I'm just I think I'm pretty good at editing, and I feel comfortable doing it. You know, I still think my writing's a bit and I think some of the stuff on camera I'm a bit critical of. But like editing, like if something's bad, I recognize it's bad. If that makes sense. I feel
Yeah,
comfortable with it. Well, I don't know, I was going somewhere with this. But like the one problem I have is that like I can't stop. So like if I'm editing something, I have this like paranoia that it's gonna like be deleted the next day. So like I'll often like stay up till like 2, 3 in the morning to get it done. So like I guess if you're saying there that you're doing it in your lunch break and stuff like that, I'm envious that you were able to do that, because I couldn't. I'd have to like just take the rest of the day off to be able to do something like that, because I just can't. I can't
yeah,
stop.
yeah. I mean, it sort of it helped as well, where if the day job was quiet sometimes, where
Yeah,
you
fair
know
enough.
you might sort of be able to do a little bit more, or you know, still take care of your duties, but if you need to do a little bit more, if you need to do research, or you know, grab some images or something, you could
Yeah,
maybe do that at the same time when you'd be normally just taking a break, you know, because it's
totally. Yeah.
important to take, you know, and this is really bad of me, but you know, it's always important to take breaks.
No,
And so
no,
you'd be taking
definitely.
a break from work, and I'd be like, well, work on this other stuff that I'm, you know, this other project that I'm doing right now. So rather than actually like taking a break to like
Yeah.
for my well-being, but it
Well, it is
was
the same thing, isn't it,
important.
really? No, I
Yeah,
totally agree with that. I used to do really intense design work back about 12 years ago, and it was really like down in the weeds, like really stressful. Like you find all these valves on this ship, work in a model, right? And I like had to take it every hour. I had to like walk around the building twice, because otherwise I'd go insane, you know.
yeah,
And if you're going to spend that 5, 10 minutes just doing something else that chills you out, why not? You know, so that's
yeah,
part
exactly.
of any sort of comfortable, good company should be encouraging that, I think, anyway, personally.
Oh yeah, definitely,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Okay, so let's go back to games specifically then, because you've mentioned Sonic and we talked about PSM2 and stuff like that. So, what was Sonic the first game was the first game you played, or was it what was the first
Yeah,
game you played?
yes. So Sonic was the first game that I played, and it was the only game that I played for a long time, actually, because my friend Ollie only had that one game. So and we didn't have a Mega Drive, so until I think it was the following Christmas. I'm not really sure what year that would have been, 94, 93, 94, something like that. Until we had our own Mega Drive. And when we had our Mega Drive, my brother and I were given ours for Christmas the following year. They changed the pack-in from Sonic the Hedgehog to Sonic 2.
Oh,
So then it was like, oh my God, we've got we've got new Sonic, you know. So then that became the be all and end all for us growing up. And Sonic 2 as a 5 or 6 year old is difficult. It's still difficult
yeah,
now in places, and I never actually finished it as a kid. I got to Death Egg Zone, and I just couldn't.
as a kid.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I
well done.
couldn't. Yeah, thank you. I couldn't beat Robotnik right at the very end.
I've only ever done it with save states, so I've never actually beaten the game properly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too bad once you know what you're doing, and but even then, you can still be caught out by like a random hitbox being where you didn't expect it to be, or just Robotnik fires his arms off at you or something. So yeah, then played a lot of Sonic 2 over the next sort of like year or so. And yeah, we didn't have a lot of games. We really love Sonic, so we played a lot of Sonic. And my uncle had a SNES, so had very limited experience of playing things like Super Mario, and I remember playing Street Fighter there, which was quite cool. Which was kind of my introduction to fighting games before Tekken. And then my friend Ollie, same Ollie, he got a PS1, and with that he had Tekken 2 and trying to think what else he had, and Crash Bandicoot. But he didn't have a memory card, so again, I used to sort of follow the same trend of like going around his house every day and playing Crash Bandicoot. But we had to note down all of the passwords in the back of the manual. So somewhere out there, this copy of Crash Bandicoot exists with like hundreds of like symbols, because it was all, I don't know if you remember the if you've ever played it or not, but like all of the passwords in Crash Bandicoot are just like triangle, X, circle,
Yeah.
square. The
super
and they get
password,
like
triangle,
super
triangle, triangle,
passwords.
triangle. Yep.
Yeah, and so the back of his manual was just like littered in these because he didn't have a memory card. And it was kind of like history repeating, where then like the following Christmas we were lucky enough to get a PlayStation. And but it was quite funny because so my birthday is the 5th of December. Put it in your calendar, Jack. And for my birthday I was given Croc, Legend of the
Oh
Gobbos.
yes, right.
But that was 20 days before I got my PlayStation.
Oh right, so you had to
So
just look at the box. Right.
I used to like look at the box and read the manual like cover to cover, like for 20 days, just like I think I'll get a PlayStation.
Is that the manual where it talks about the crocodile like having problems with his stomach because he eats something or something like that? So the croc one I've got, like if you honestly like, funny you mentioned croc, because the croc I had the final password in it. Someone had written it, like
Oh
literally.
wow, okay.
Yeah, so nothing else in it. Like it wasn't like on the note, because for anyone listening that doesn't remember manuals, basically in the back of them was you had that notes page, which I think was probably 4 passwords and stuff like that. But like someone had written in like the controller screen, they'd written this like in a really bad handwriting thing. I thought, what's that? And I put it in. I just randomly one day decided to put it in the password screen, and I got to the final level of Croc, and I was like, what? That's crazy. But if you read the actual book of Croc, and I did like a really really bad video on Croc a few years ago, and the guidebook, or the manual, it's just someone clearly had a laugh. They were just like, let's talking about all the gobbos, and apparently like he's the most feared gobbo in the world because he had indigestion, and he like eat cheese, and he was like what was it? He's lactose intolerant. No, it's worth a read. It's a trip. It's clearly written by someone that got it past whoever. Either the person that was directing the game went, yeah, that'll be all right, or they just went, I'm going to put something in as a joke. It's my last day or something. It's definitely worth reading.
But, well, I'll give it a go. I think after 20 days of reading it as a child, 20 days straight of just like going over and over again, I've obviously forgotten it since then. But yeah, I'll revisit it. I'll check that out. I've got it downstairs, so like we've still got like the PS3 setup, so I can play my PS1.
but the super password thing. So I got a story with the super password. So you're talking about Crash Bandicoot. So obviously that game was designed before. I think it was designed before memory. I don't know the history of PlayStation, but I know that like the memory cards were like really expensive back in the day. This is like another bit of thing. I think I didn't have a memory card for like maybe 6 months after I got a PlayStation. So like passwords were the absolute thing. So I remember like the Hercules PS1 game, which was the first game I bought or got bought for me after
Disney's
Christmas.
action game starring Hercules.
Disney's action game starring Hercules. Yeah, really well. The one that sits really well on your shelf, not the H, it sits on the D. Yeah. And I had like, I remember like my dad drew out the like, because the passwords came on like the Grecian urns. And he drew out really terrible pictures, like, but like I kept it on like a post-it note for ages to know what the next level was going to be. But
that's brilliant.
But the super password in I know it starts triangle, 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 for the final level in Crash Bandicoot. So I don't know, maybe my friend got it from a book or something like that, but we played Crash Bandicoot through, and he knew the super password and everything. It was really cool. But then years later, we rediscovered the games. Like we were into the Game Boy Advance games and stuff like that. And he had this thing where like he was Crash Bandicoot. This guy was like he actually was like a cartoon character. He loved Bugs Bunny, and he was like his humor was just based off of slapstick nonsense. He was obsessed with Bugs Bunny and stuff like that. And he had this thing where we'd like, as sort of 10, 11-year-olds, we'd like he was Crash Bandicoot, you know what I mean? Like he wanted to. It was bizarre. Not actually, he wasn't actually Crash Bandicoot.
Just lived in jorts.
Yeah, pretty much. He used to like
Spun around a lot.
spin around and like stuff like that. We used to do like film silly things and things like that. But we got really back into the game, and he was really into his like tech and stuff like that. And he had like an emulator of Crash Bandicoot. Look how cool I've got an emulator of it, even though we both owned all the games, so it didn't really mean anything. But like one day we put Crash Bandicoot 1 on, and he was like, "Oh yeah, they've got super," and he sort of like sat down and he opened the password screen. I don't know if you remember, but in Crash Bandicoot 1, the super password, there's not a slot for it. It gives you like a short slot, and as soon as you start typing it in, it gets bigger, and then you're typing the super password in. And he went, "Right, it's triangle, triangle, triangle," and then like from memory, he'd like, we both were, it's that, and then we just, I don't know, I couldn't tell you what it is now, but like maybe I've had a controller in front of me, I'd be able to remember it. But he remembered it, and I'm like, oh my god, like, because this is like back in the days, like pre-broadband, where like in order to find this thing out, we'd have to have found the book somewhere. And it was like, oh my god, and we just ended up playing the last level of Crash Bandicoot because he'd remembered it. It's like, how these things just stick in your brain, like
that and muscle memory. And probably has the do you remember those little yellow cheat books?
Yes.
They used to, it'd always have like some random bit of CGI art on the front cover, and it'd be like the
Lara
cheapest,
Croft,
it'd always be like the cheapest, nastiest paper. But yeah, and half of them wouldn't work.
No. No, that's it. You're someone that wrote, you've written a cheat in, and what I found, because I bought a couple of these recently, because I finally found a do you remember PlayStation Max magazine?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So I had an issue of that from back in 2000 or whatever, 2001, and it had the guidebook on Final Fantasy 9. And like we just talked about before, like writing a guide before the guide's actually out. This guidebook came out before the official guide came out, and it was one I had, and it's really bad. But like I lent it to a friend, and the story is his dog peed on it. Right, that was the story. I think he just wanted to keep it. Right, so I'm like, for years I've been looking for this magazine, and you go into eBay, like PlayStation Max Final Fantasy 9, I couldn't find it. And the other day I was just going through eBay, I saw it. It was like there's about 4 or 5 different magazines with it. I'm not having it. £6 it cost me.
Oh, amazing.
And I got it. And I got loads of other magazines with like loads of the cheat books with it. And you open them up, they're all the same. Like literally, it's the same, like the same words as well. Like this is how you get the Secret Spyro demo in Crash Bandicoot 3. Like it's like not even, they haven't even changed the wording. It's like all right, okay. You can imagine like going into a shop and going, 1,001 different cheats for games. It's like, well, you've already owned 600 of them in the last issue you bought the cheat magazine in. So, they were such a commodity back in the day, cheat books, though, weren't they? Like, I don't know, like if you had the same experience as me, where like you'd become the coolest kid in the playground for a day if you knew the cheats for games. I don't know if you had that.
That was never the case.
No,
like never the coolest kid in the playground.
I think I'm just lamenting that I wasn't as well. But no, like I had the cheats for Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and I don't think I downloaded them off the internet at this point, and I brought them all in, and it was like, what? Like there's a code in that game that gets you the Hydra jet, and I introduced that to everyone, and they were all like these cheats went round everyone, like they lent them to everyone over the next few days. So that I felt like the coolest kid in the playground. I probably wasn't, but
yeah. There was a time. So I used to work in a design office where we had an AO printer. And
right. Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, there was a moment in time, 2008 specifically, where we printed off the maps for GTA 4 for like pigeon locations and like this is it work. Like printed out the maps like on AO size print paper, and then like took them home, and like they had little icons, but it was like blown right up. So it was good. They were good, they were PNG files, so they like printed okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like made it so much easier to find those, because they get printed in books or like on the website, and you'd have to like constantly be scrolling in or zooming in and scrolling and trying to find them, instead of just like sitting on the floor with an AO print out all these maps that you could just actually like conveniently tick off. And they got passed around a few of us in the design office, so it's like, I've done all of these now, you can go and find the last few unique stunt jumps, whatever you're looking for. So yeah, that was my cool kid in the playground phase, but it
But
came when I was like
later,
21.
that's fair enough. Yeah, I think the thing is like it's now with the way games media is with YouTube and stuff like that. I mean, in a way, it's still difficult to find guides on things because I find I've made a few guides and they tend to do quite well. Obviously, SEO wise, people are always looking for. I've got one on how to beat Dark Link in Ocarina of Time.
Okay.
And there's about 5 or 6 different ways you can beat him, right? And the reason I made it was because I was like, I got to that point in the game, and I was like, I can't remember how to beat him. I can't remember how to beat him. So I looked up how to beat him, and then like I started trying different items, and I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna make a video.
Yeah,
And it
why
gets
not?
like 50 hits a day, I think, or something ridiculous. So it does quite well, but it's really difficult to find like a good guide for some of these things because people are like, they start the video off and, hey, welcome back to the channel, and then they tell their life story before they get into like this one thing you want to do. You know what I mean? Because obviously they're trying for the SEO. That's fine. It's understandable why they're doing it, but it's like, well, if you're going to make a quick video, like make it a short or something like that, I don't know.
Yeah.
But so in a way, like it's yeah, it makes it difficult to. Back in the day, finding out how to do a game was really hard, and then I think we went through a period where it was really easy because you just go on YouTube. And I think now it's kind of gone full circle where it's like it's going through all the different clickbaity titles. I think maybe I don't know.
Yeah, it was also fun back in the day pre-internet where stuff you couldn't look stuff up, and so playground rumors would exist about certain games. So
Get
like
Lara
for
Croft
instance
naked.
when well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe like we never play, well, we didn't play a lot of Tomb Raider when we were younger, but the one that sticks out in my mind is in Vice City of convincing people that, or people would be convinced that there was a faster motorbike than the PCJ 600, and it would only appear during a full moon and only in a certain alleyway, and you had to go at like midnight, and then it would spawn in. And I can remember my friend Aaron phoning me up and saying, like, have you found this? Like, Tom or whoever was saying about this at school, and now I can't find it. I'm here at midnight. It's like, you're phoning me up. It's clearly rubbish.
That is fantastic. I like that. That's cool. I mean, the Lara Croft naked one. I only mentioned that because it's a legendary one, not because I was happy. Just disclaimer. Well, it's interesting, that one, because like the cheat there for the exploding Lara. That's where it comes from, because the thing was basically in Tomb Raider there was a rumor that went around that you could make Lara Croft get naked, right? So clearly for desperate men, because they wanted to see polygonal boobs, whatever, But of course, then they made the joke that the cheat to do it was this code, and you put it in, and it was exploding Lara. And of course, then like kids like us thought exploding Lara was funnier than boobs. So,
Yeah.
so like actually, that in a way that was better. But that sort of thing's really cool. I mean, like, I never had that one specifically, but I like, you always had that one kid, the J from the In-Betweeners kid. Yeah, I completed it, mate. Yeah, I completed it, mate. And they come up with this ridiculous story to get you searching for it. Someone tried to convince me that you could play as Wario and Waluigi in Smash Bros. Melee if you like beat arcade mode like 200 times or something ridiculous, and just to waste your time. But the why I remember like really upsetting me was do you ever play the Pokemon games? You play Pokemon Gold?
No.
Right.
It's one series that's completely passed me by.
Oh, okay. Well, basically the premise was that like in Pokemon Gold, it was basically the first game was copied and pasted back into the original game. You go around a region called Kanto, you get all the Pokemon, all 150 Pokemon, and then the second game was you start in Johto, and then you can actually go back to Kanto and basically play the same game again. It was a massive deal at the time. It was incredible. But like basically the cheat to get Celebi, which was like the 251st Pokemon, they had to be like an event, and it was hardwired into the game, but like you had to like hack it or whatever. But like someone had written a elaborate thing where you had to like go between both regions, but you had to do it on foot. So normally in Pokemon you can fly around to different regions, but they were like, no, you've got to go all the way around the map on foot, and then catch a random Pokemon, call it Viva. I remember it being called Viva, and then go and speak to this guy, and it'll appear. And of course, it takes about 3 hours to do. And I got there, I was like, well, it hasn't worked. And I look at it, I'm like, I've got no one to complain to. It's just some guy on the internet that's just thought this would be really funny to wind some kid up, And that's kind of like lost now, because you can prove this stuff instantly. You can go online and go, no, that's not true.
Yeah,
instantly.
You can debunk it immediately,
that kind of like jovial, let's practical joke on all our friends, or like people that aren't really our friends. I mean, like I'm trying to think if there's any other memories I remember. Like, I mean, the one that's coming to my head is that Jar Jar Binks was going to die in Attack of the Clones, but that was a film more than anything. That was a rumor, because I think everyone wanted it to happen. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, but no. So yeah, so what would you say your favorite game is then? What's your absolute pash in gaming?
think it's quite a big question. It probably changes day by day. Huge Metal Gear fan.
Right.
So and even that is quite difficult to choose between them, because objectively you'd probably say that Metal Gear Solid 3 is the best one, but I also have really strong feelings about the original and Metal Gear Solid 2, like for all of its like pomp and insaneness. Insanity is the word I was looking for, is so that whole series to me is very special. And Kingdom Hearts is the same.
Oh,
Kingdom
right,
Hearts
okay.
does the same thing for me, where it's a bit of a convoluted plot, but it has, I grew up being a Disney kid, so combining Disney and later Final Fantasy, and then having that in this like really like colorful,
Yeah.
fun RPG, that was just like, oh my god, yes please. And I can remember sort of being, I think it was like 2006 when that came out, and I was working in a shop, and like being able to pop out on my lunch break to go and buy Kingdom Hearts 2 on the day it came out. And that was, so yeah, Kingdom Hearts 2, Metal Gear Solid, maybe Sonic 2
Yeah.
perhaps. But we're spoiled nowadays. Like
Yeah.
there's so many amazing games. Like on another day you could catch me and I'd say Hades.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Hades. Or God of War. It's just spoiled. Absolutely spoiled for good games. So it's difficult to put my finger on like one that I would say that's my favorite game of all time. Um, I think I
Yeah.
could play any of them over and over again and be happy.
It's a weird thing, isn't it? Because I've talked about Final Fantasy, which you mentioned there as well. And like, it depends on my mood and whether I prefer Final Fantasy 8 or Final Fantasy 9, really. I mean, the fact I've just played through Final Fantasy 8, I don't want to touch it at the moment. I want to play
Yeah.
something new. You sort of like go, oh God, I can't face it, because you played it for so long, that kind of thing. Um, but is there one like just because obviously you've got into a sort of a games media job now? Is there one that like from that perspective is important to you? Like it maybe you learned something from making a video or article about it, or like it sort of pushed your career in some way that is important to you?
That's a really good question. I sort of touched on it earlier. I think the Ascent was important for me
Mm,
because that was one that was it wasn't a game I would have gone out and I wouldn't have seeked that out to try and I want to go and play this game. It was, I think it might have been one of the first ones that was given. It's like, here's your job, go and review this game, and I hadn't checked it out. And I did when I worked for Games Cabin, I did get a few stinkers come through my letterbox to sort of go and review this. And I did have a couple of like really awful shovelware sort of type games that came through. But yeah, the Ascent was one that was there's probably the most important in terms of um here's a game that you need to play through, you need to review. And so that one, because I wouldn't have gone and bought it myself, and it wasn't something that I was doing off my own back and I wanted to promote or anything like that. That one was quite important to sort of kind of establish myself, I suppose, in terms of like I can do this, and almost prove to myself that yeah, I can actually string some words together, and people will read it or people will watch it. So yeah, probably the Ascent is the most important one. With regards to like video stuff, I think our most popular stuff on the channel was always back when I was doing sort of JHT. If we put Sonic in there, then it always did really well. But for me, my favorite stuff to create was like the Let's Plays.
right.
So with James and Holly, it was always just a lot of fun to be able to
Yeah.
to create a Let's Play. And we had great fun with things like You Suck at Parking, or Skier Ritual, like a horror game, playing that as a horror game. And again, we used to get these codes from like Keymailer, or a publisher would reach out to us and say, oh, can you,
Oh, okay.
here's a key, would you like to cover this game for us? And so we'd get a couple of those, and they were just great fun to play together and also to edit, because I think what separated our stuff from other people was that we spent so much time editing to actually, we might play for a few hours to get a half-hour video like we touched on earlier, but make it really tight and really focused. And it was more about the experience that we were having,
Yeah.
to sort of like people could see our personalities and see the way that we interact with each other and how much fun we'd have in the game. And I think that's something that's always been really important to me, is actually to promote the positivity of gaming, to say, this is so good for us and for communities. And we'd get people who would regularly sort of like tune in and actually enjoy being almost the fourth member of JHT. That was kind of like the aim, was to create something that was you could imagine us all just sat around a sofa or sat around a TV playing this game together, and that's what we did. So games like that were really important to me when it came when it came into sort of like the games media side of things.
And I think that's like that's what's great about games media. I think I might have said to you actually when we met that like probably not now, because the music industry is I don't know if matured is the right word, but when I was coming up, I was in bands back in the early 2010s, and like a lot of the time you'd have people go, oh yeah, they're a really good musician, I really like them, but they wouldn't actually mean what they said. It was just a bit, maybe it was bad, maybe I had bad luck with people I met, but like you'd have people like to the camera would be saying, oh yeah, we really enjoyed playing that, and then off camera they'd be like, oh, I was just saying that for the camera, and it's like, okay. Whereas like what I found with games media, sort of like being a sort of semi outsider with it, I remember like watching like your outside Xboxes, your outside extras, your PlayStation accesses, your Triple Jump I mentioned before, things like that over the years, and even some of the independent creators, and thinking, this can't be real. I didn't actually think this can't be real. I just like remember thinking, oh yeah, no, so whatever, it's sort of that throwaway, like they're making it up. And then when you realize you meet some of these people, you go, now these people generally meet, and that was kind of like an awakening for me, because I went to EGX at the end of 2019, and I was like, these people they're not faking this at all. And I thought, wow, okay, there's actually an avenue I could get involved with here, because I'm not faking it.
That enthusiasm is infectious as well, and
it's incredible.
I mean, PlayStation Access was a gateway for me in terms of like, this is something that I knew that I wanted to sort of pursue. Rob in particular, I mean, he popped up in your video, which I was so pleased to see. It was like, oh, it's great, because I know, and he's an authority on Final Fantasy VIII, so getting him on board for that video is like, ding, well done. But seeing the work that him, Nathan, and Dave, and the rest of the team at We Are Reach have produced over the years, and now with sort of like Rosie and Ash as well. It is you can see it's a genuine passion, and we've been fortunate. I've been fortunate enough to actually sort of meet them only very briefly. I think it might have been EGX last year, to bump into them and have like a chat with them. We ended up queuing to play Sonic Frontiers with Rosie, so we were queuing for like an hour and just chatting, and like everything, like people like that are so genuine, and so like it's just really lovely to, because I guess you hear these sorts of things, the cliche of don't meet your heroes, and all this sort of stuff, and it's like, well, actually, if you meet somebody like them, you can tell that the passion is there, and that they're really keen on they just love games, and they want to share that with people.
Totally. And I think as well, I mean, I was talking about this earlier, because I was chatting about, thank you for watching my video, by the way, but
it was a pleasure.
the Final Fantasy VIII one, which we've mentioned lots of times in this video. I've not got a massive ego. Don't go and watch the Final Fantasy VIII. No, I'm not at all.
It's just links embedded all the way around.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, no, I'll just like flash it up on the screen, like go and watch the Final Fantasy VIII video. But like that, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what your take on this is. But like, I've obviously more recently, really, I mean, it's been 4 or 5 years now, so it's a long time. Like, been getting more into the creative side of things, and I've sort of like, I feel like now like the dam's about to burst with all the effort I've put in. But like, I really was like quite creatively driven back when I was a teenager. I don't know if you remember, well, you must remember Flash games, but I used to have Flash. I used to make really bad Flash games. That died a death just as I was getting into it, so I kind of missed out on it. And of course, the problem I had was that like friends I had at the time were very much like, they'd be into one thing one minute and then into something the next. So I never had anyone else that like, when I was a lot younger I did, but like in my teen years, I never had anyone else that would like want to keep doing something. You know what I mean? So I kind of like thought, well, if I'm doing this, I'll be lonely. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I guess in a way, like, I don't know what your take on it is, but like some of these people that like, the people you just described there probably might have felt the same way, and like they've kind of like now found their tribe. I don't know. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouths, but I don't know if you feel that way or anything like that. Or
yeah, I mean, that's definitely it's funny you use the phrase like found my tribe, because that is exactly that's the phrase that one of my previous therapists
Oh,
used
right.
to use, so and I'm perfectly open about sort of like sharing,
Go ahead.
therapy's good,
It is.
go and try it. It's awesome. But yeah, one of my previous therapists who I used to talk to, she used to say, oh, these people that you work with don't sound like your tribe, is what she used to say, and that was where I sort of worked with a lot of sort of toxicity in the past, or toxic people. And working in games media is like the complete opposite of that, where it does genuinely feel like, oh yeah, these people, these people are my tribe, because we have a shared interest at the very core of it, and then from there's so much nuance and sort of little avenues that are different, and you learn stuff all the time. Like we've this past week on Retro Dodo, we produced a feature on our favorite spooky games, and it's funny because you see lists sometimes where it's like the best like horror games of all time, or things like that. It was to coincide with Halloween, obviously.
Yeah.
And some of the picks that came out of there, you'd get the stuff that you might expect. You get like a Silent Hill, but then you'd get Gregory's Horror Show on the PS2. It's like, I've never even heard of this game.
Yeah.
And it's like you're learning and experiencing all this different stuff, all these different things all the time, and understanding that that meant something to somebody. That was really important to someone as they were growing up, and that's their favorite sort of spooky game. And it's just learning about different people through the games that they enjoy and they experience, and they share it with you, and you do the same to them, and you bring stuff to the table, and you go, well, oh, I've never heard of this game before, or whatever. And it really does feel like a big family. And I think there's always an element of toxicity in any community, and the gamer community is certainly no exception to that. But I think if you put the positivity out there, and you kind of like define your criteria of what you want from people that you interact with as well, you can. And certainly in the age that we live in, it's easier to curate that sort of tribe that you're looking for. And I think that, yeah, like you were saying, those creators who like those people from Access, for instance, or Outside Extra, they probably all at some point have experienced those same sort of like feelings of, I'm on my own and I'm trying to, I'm doing this alone. But once you find those people who you can kind of bounce ideas off of, and can really like share your passion with them, it's the greatest thing.
No, I think it is as well. I mean, I think I like my music as well, and clearly you do, with the guitar behind you. It's really interesting. Is that a Les Paul, is it?
No, that's a Ibanez.
Oh, it's an Ibanez. Oh, right. Okay. I think is that Joe Satriani, is it, in the
It
picture?
is
There we
such,
go.
yeah.
There we go. Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, mine's you can't see it. It's a Gibson, and I've got no pictures of guitarists around my room.
Oh.
So not yet anyway. But no, that's it. Yeah. So I like my music a lot. I love my music. And I do like film, but I think games combines all of it. You know what I mean? And there's that interactivity element. Like there's something like, I don't know, like you just described it there, but more eloquently than I think I could. There, where, just basically like you finding your tribe, and like that shared sort of passion. There is nothing like it.
Yeah, I think to maybe paraphrase Dara O'Brien, the comedian, he does a little bit, or did a little bit, about as you get older and the sort of media that you ingest, shall we say, for lack of a better word. So I was kind of the same. I grew up as a big like TV and film buff, and love music, and always buying new music, and going to the cinema, or buying DVDs or Blu-rays or whatever. And as you get older,
VHSs.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you what, yeah, I was looking for some stuff in the loft the other day, and I came across like loads of brilliant old VHSs, including like stuff for Sonic and Mario. We'd never owned a SNES. Why do I have a Mario guide VHS?
Gotta buy it.
Got it for some reason. But yeah, the what I was saying is that or what Dara was saying was that you reach a point in your life where you kind of have to accept that you can't pursue all of it at the same sort of intensity as what you once did. So, you kind of pick and choose the things that you really prioritize in. For me, music is one of those where it's like, I've almost kind of plateaued. Like new music is like, it has to be incredibly special for it to enter like my sort of like mindset. And the same with movies and TV, maybe like to a lesser extent, but games was that one that you kind of push forward. And this is the story from Daro, is that games is the only medium that, you know, you can pay for it and it will actively stop you from accessing that thing that you've paid for if you are bad at it, you know. And I think the bit he does
That's
is like
good. I like that.
you never read a book and then you get like a few chapters in and the book says to you, well, summarize the main themes of the book, and you go, oh well, I wasn't really paying attention, and then the book closes and you cannot progress to the rest of the book. You know, that doesn't happen. Video games do that all the time, you know. Like if you haven't mastered how to parry in Sekiro, or you know, you're done. You get to like the fourth boss and that's it. You can't play the rest of the game. You may have paid for it, you know, but if you're not good enough, you can't do it. If you know, you've bought Guitar Hero, you've paid for the plastic guitar, you're there rocking out in your underwear, you know, if you can't tap those buttons quick enough, you've got like 5 songs to play with.
Yeah,
You know, you'll never see the rest of the set.
and I think that translates into the media people we've talked about as well, where I think I might touch on this earlier. You can't fake being a gamer. I mean, there's that sort of thing where you like have the people that try and fake being gamers. I spoke to someone years and years ago, and obviously the subject comes up in conversation. Oh, yeah, I'm a gamer or something like that, and they'll turn around and they'll be like, oh yeah, right. And then if you get chatting to someone like you say yourself, we can start chatting about things, and then you get I like that game. Oh, I don't like that game. Oh, what do you like about that game? There's like there's like communal. You're stuck in your own little world together. And there are some people that are more casual that will talk about games they played as a kid, and you can enjoy the conversation with them as like you would about anything else. But then you get the fake people that are like, I mean, I remember one girl, one of my sister's friends years ago. She was like, I was like, oh, I'm really into Final Fantasy. She's like, oh, I like Final Fantasy, and I was like, oh, what's your favorite one? She was like, Final Fantasy 5. I was like, why? And she went, don't know. I'm like, you're clearly just saying that just because you want to be edgy or cool. Like that you can't not. I don't remember. So how can you not remember? If it won't be your favorite then, will it? Like I'm sorry, but like, and then I think I don't know what your take on this is, but I think like the fakeness gets found out very very quickly, and I think in that environment with the games media people, they can probably sniff you out very very quickly if you're a faker.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Yeah,
I don't know.
certainly within games media, I think that would be the case. You know,
Yeah,
you'd quickly be sort of like rumbled if you didn't know, you know, if you didn't know your games, I suppose. But certainly, I think nowadays as well, it's staggering like the amount of people who actually play games, and it's wonderful. And people, you know, people of all walks of life play lots of different sorts of games. So, and I think there's still a bit of a discrepancy between the people who play games and identify as gamers and people who play games and don't really consider it as, oh, I'm not gaming. You know, it's like
yeah,
it'll be, you know, your auntie or someone who plays like hours and hours and hours of Candy Crush, and you know, one of the most popular games, most successful games of all time. They won't consider themselves a gamer, but they are. You know,
yeah.
you know, whether they accept it or not, you are a gamer,
Yeah,
sort
you
of
want
thing.
one of us, one of us. Yeah,
Yeah,
that sort of thing. Yeah. I was listening to a podcast earlier. I think I forget which podcast it was. They were talking about the DS when that came out and how that was a massive thing because they had like Patrick Stewart and like I think someone else like just like playing the DS in the living room, and they had different people, different age groups playing the DS. And I think like back in 2006 when the Wii and the DS and stuff like that came out, like it felt like gaming became like not necessarily a family thing, but it became for everyone.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know whether you think that was the case. It was like that beforehand, or do you reckon that was what made it like that? So
I think the, you know, the Wii in particular did so much heavy lifting in terms of like bringing
mm,
gaming to a more widestream, a more
more
mainstream
widestream.
audience. Widestream audience. It's been a long day.
It's a new word. It's a new word now.
Yeah.
I'm keeping that one.
We call those lakes or rivers, Theo.
What?
But
Oh God.
yeah, I mean, case in point, I have an uncle who still has his Wii set up to this day, and when he has house parties, they do Wii bowling in the garage. You know, like that console is now 2008, so yeah, it's been going for a long time. It's purely used as a Wii bowling machine. You know, that's all it is. But yeah, that console at that time, I mean, that was it. It was, you know, you remember when Reggie Fils-Aimé, he was on stage and he's saying, you know, it's called the Wii because it's about all of us.
Yeah.
It's, it's we play games. We all play games. And, even down to the Wii symbology of like a W and two eyes. It's like the two eyes represent two people.
Yeah.
It's a multiplayer experience for lots of different people. So it definitely did a lot, I think, to sort of like bring it to the masses and to make it more accessible. And you get them, like, you see stories sometimes of, I think it was maybe last year, maybe even earlier this year, there was a couple who were in their 90s who won a Wii bowling tournament, like a big, like picture esports, like picture Evo or something like that, right?
Just imagine someone like doing a voiceover with these 90-year-olds there. That'd be amazing. Like,
it's great. It's fantastic. They had commentators and everything, and they were like, I can't remember how, but they were a couple, and she was like 96, he was 95 or something like that. And they just won this Wii bowling tournament. And it's like,
that's cool.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and they could talk to someone of a different, and that's another thing. It's like a generational thing, isn't it? Because I think we've touched upon music there, and I think to be fair, like I'm very diverse with the music I like, so I tend to be able to connect with people of different age groups about music. But I think there is an element of like what you grow up with is a very much age related thing in a lot of ways. But I think with games, like I think it isn't the case, is it? I think I mean, obviously, funny enough, this is a nice segue onto oh my god, the Retro Dodo stuff.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, because it's obviously retro. There seems to be a massive drive for retro games. I mean, and essentially, honestly, it's good to me because like we just talked about those industry people and stuff like that are into their games, and like you can't fake it in games journalism. But like I found when I've spoken to some of these people, and I actually know a lot more than I thought I did. And I've got like, honestly, like you can't see, but I've got like, I think I've got something like 400 or 500 boxed games under my bed.
Wow.
Yeah, I've got loads. Like it's ridiculous. I was like at the period of like the mid 2010s where like me and my friend collected them, and I've played all of them. Not much. I've played at least 10 minutes of all of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I've actually got quite a lot of knowledge. That's really, really good. But like retro gaming seems to have like, it's not going away. So I mean, I guess what's your take on that, and how does that tie into the Retro Dodo stuff?
Yeah, I think, well, there's a couple of different aspects to it. One of the big ones is game preservation, because we're seeing nowadays with digital storefronts or games launching only digitally, where which one is it? Like, okay, so one that hit me quite hard personally was when Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the game, came out. And it originally launched for PS3 and Xbox 360, and eventually got delisted, and you could no longer purchase that game. And of course, then they did a remake they ported it to PS4 and Xbox One to bring it back. But there are games that will just be lost to time, and they'll never be experienced again. We've got PT is another one that came up in our recent spooky games section. Yeah, so it's effectively a demo, but it's also like one of the scariest gaming experiences you can have. I totally bugged out as soon as I saw the baby in this thing.
Yeah.
But that game is like, even if you have that connected to your account, that game is lost to you if it's not already on your PS4.
Yeah.
With like PS4s that have it installed, fetching like ludicrous amounts of money on eBay. So there's something, I think, with the retro community where it is about like games preservation. So we obviously at Retro Dodo, we celebrate retro games. You very kindly said earlier, it's the world's leading retro gaming website, which we strive to be, and we work hard at it. But yeah, it's trying to sort of preserve that, and not just for ourselves, but for other people to experience, because a lot of these games mean so much to us. And to other people as they were growing up. And I think there's a lot of them which maybe have been lost to time. There's some like staggering statistic that I think it was came out recently, that it's like 85% of all games prior to, I don't know, like 1995, I think it is, have just been lost. We all remember Metal Gear, we all remember Crash Bandicoots because they were these great big, but who's looking out for Sniper 2? Like
just me.
just you. But you might be the owner of like one of the few copies that remains. Like when it all goes, once the bombs drop, or I've been playing too much Fallout, but whatever, like once, at the end of the day, you want to be able to like have these things and to be able to,
Yeah,
they're
no, I
pieces
agree.
of art. Even the worst game that you can imagine, someone's developed that and someone's created it, and it's like it's still art. So you can't really sort of like write it off because it's someone's, and we're not talking about sort of like the last several FIFAs on Switch here, whatever they were called, like the Legacy Edition, where it's just like a copy and paste year on year, and they change the box art and sell it again for 40 quid. But like,
Yep.
but those games of yesteryear are really important to people, and so through either gathering the physical original hardware, and even that poses a problem nowadays because you don't buy televisions with like SCART inputs, or it's everything's HDMI. So sometimes it's even difficult to get these games to play. You might have you might have a console that you can plug stuff into, but you can't actually enjoy it. So then there's the whole element of emulation. And like Retro Dodo, we put out a book, the handheld history, and it's like all these different sort of handhelds across the years that you can now experience a lot of these classic retro games on. And it's not just stuff that is sort of been produced by the big manufacturers, but also you've got small sort of effectively bedroom sort of developers who have created bits of hardware that you can now, through emulation, enjoy some of these games that otherwise would be lost.
Yeah, I think there's something like there's a Reddit page called Tip of My Joystick, right? And it is about games. Everyone
Yes,
listening
I
in,
know.
it sounds
Yeah.
a bit dodgy, but Tip of My Joystick, it's
It's
basically
not
like
as
tip.
bad as it sounds.
No, yeah, but put safe search on when you look for it. No, so the tip of my joystick, there's like tip of my tongue and then tip of my whatever, like for people trying to find something. And you go on there all the time and people are looking for specific games. And there are games that I played, like I was a big PC gamer in the 90s, so like a DOS games, stuff like that. That I don't know. Do you have the Acorn Electrons in school as a kid at all?
Oh my god, yeah, that's going back. Yeah.
Yeah, right, there we go. Wow. So basically, right, like I've been looking for years for so there was a the Acorn Electrons were in schools. My understanding of them is they were like BBC funded things that were given to schools. I don't know the
Learning
ins and outs of
tools,
them.
effectively.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I do have, funny enough, some more. You probably saw my the footage of me as a kid. There's some footage of me playing one of those at school years and years ago, which I'll probably put on the channel at some point. But basically, like there was a game on there, and it was the only way I'd describe it was that it was like one of those like storybook things. So I don't know if you remember, is it Granny's Garden? That's the one that's the famous one that still exists. And what it is like it comes on with the screen, and then like it just basically shows like a panel with like text at the bottom, and then it tells you a story. So it's not
Mm.
really a game, but of course the interactivity, the part to fool you into thinking it's a game, was at the beginning of this game. There was like a top-down Zelda-esque 2D the all directions thing, and you had like an information place you went into. You went in there, it told you how to do the game, and then there was two different paths. Now, in this game, which I don't know the name of, and hopefully someone will find it for me because I'm going mad thinking I've made it up in my mind. The way that the input worked was that if you pressed like the left button on your keyboard, it would register that as one input. And I think it was because it was in basic coding. So like nowadays, even back then, and like Windows, if you hold the left button, it would and take it off, it'd stop. It might take a minute, it might be a bit of delay depending on how badly it was programmed. But this, every input you put in, if you held it, it just had left, 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 left. So what would happen is this character would just like walk into the wall. And if you'd press left 100 times, it would have to do 100
To
times
complete
left.
them. Yeah.
And of course I remember like what's going on? He'd like get really frustrated with this guy, this figure like moving really slowly across the screen. And of course it would just be walking into the wall like with a really silly like single frame of animation. And of course we got this thing as a kid. No, in order to play this, you got to be patient. And there was always like one kid that like press one, do it like that. And
Yeah.
for the life of me, I don't remember what it was called. I just want to get it just so I can play it again. But
See, it makes me think, the one that we played was called, I think, the Crystal Rainforest.
Crystal Rainforest.
I
I'm writing that
think
down.
so. You could check that out. Maybe
Yeah,
that's the
it
thing.
might be that.
I think that's what it was called. And that was a similar sort of thing. It was almost like if you took Monkey Island but stripped all of the humor out of it.
Yeah, they had quite a few games like that, and I remember like playing one where you had to go into a town and find items. It was a point and click type adventure,
Mm.
and those games. When we had one, we were playing with like the Aztecs because we did the Aztecs in junior school, and there
Yeah.
was a game we had to go down the Aztec River, and like you had to like go in, and at a certain point you had to press an input, and it was very much like those Monkey Island games and stuff like that. And it was a really bad version of the Monkey Island games. Like I said, no humor, and the graphics were terrible. But like there's an element of nostalgia there. And of course, what I get a bit wound up when people talk about nostalgia as if it's a dirty word, like, oh, it's like this sort of waste of time thing. But like to me, like what you're unlocking is you're unlocking the memory of how you felt when you experienced that thing, which is where the games media stuff comes into. So I recently, they're coming tomorrow. I'm really excited. I'm like a kid at Christmas. There was this thing for years I was talking about. It's not called. You must remember Pogs, and Tazos, and stuff like that, right? So, around the time that happened, there was these things called Stick Maniacs. Are you familiar with Stick Maniacs?
I'm not. No.
Right. So no one ever remembers these things except me, and I didn't remember what they were called until last week, right? And what they were is you go into Burger King, and they were like basically like plastic sticks. I'll send them to you when I get them, like in a picture. And they were like these the idea is they were like you collect them all, you like flick them, and they were like Tazos, but they were like Burger King toys. And I remember like collecting them as a kid for what felt like ages. And I've spoken to people for years, what were these things called? But no one was like, what are you on about? You're talking complete nonsense. And I put it on one of those tip of my, whatever things Reddit page. And a year later, someone said, oh, they're these. And I went, oh my God, they're them. And I've got them coming tomorrow. And it's like, it's unlocked all these memories, like, and of the feeling. And I think like, people go, it's a waste. I don't think it's a waste of time at all. I think it's fantastic. I think it's like, having all your stuff in your room, it makes you happier, I think, personally. Yeah.
I think so, if that's what you want. And I think nostalgia is so powerful and so emotive, and it does make people feel happy. So, certainly when we look at the games that we look at on and talk about the games we talk about on Retro Dodo, there's an element of that to us as authors as well. We know that we might be pulling out sort of little buds of memories that people, games people might not have thought about for 10, 20, 30 years. And so, we get happy, we get a little like warm feeling when we're writing about these sorts of things. And we hope that people also feel that when they read about it.
Yeah, totally. So a little bit more about games journalism then. So like, obviously you've talked about getting out of the job and career you were in and moved into that. So could you talk a bit more about that, how that was and how you got into it?
Yeah, so it's difficult. It is really difficult because, I think for me, so I touched on it earlier. I worked in a design office. I worked in property primarily. So, a lot of shop fitting design was my background, which I kind of fell into really because I had my dad very much was sort of adamant that I went and got a proper job, proper trade, when I was younger. So going into college from school, did well at school, but then didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so I chose engineering and then did CAD design from there, and then excelled in the CAD design. And then that led into the design work for shop fitting, which basically, it was a great opportunity for me. I got to travel the world. I got to, work on projects all over the place. I've been to like China, the Middle East, India, Russia, all over Europe, up and down the UK, you name it, I've been there. And but in the background, it was always like, it's kind of, I'm doing it to kind of pay the bills and to keep a roof over my head, and just worked hard throughout all those years. So I started doing that when I was maybe like 19, 20 years old, and I did that for about 10 years, and then decide like, and it'd always been that I wanted to do stuff that helped people. So I used to work in retail when I was younger, as I mentioned, and so designing shops to make them nicer. I knew that when I worked in retail, all I wanted was for someone to come in with a tin of paint and tart it up, and
totally,
it really improved. And I've even recently, this year, where I've been doing a similar sort of job, I've seen that again where people, there was a lady who worked in one of the shops I looked after this year that she'd been there for 25 years. And she was like, I've never really had any investment here. And it meant so much to her that she'd cry when we'd have like site meetings, like, I'm so happy that someone's doing this for us. So it was always a case of like, we'll try and help people. So that's always kind of been a cornerstone of the work that I've ever wanted to do. And then, through different bits and pieces from shop fitting, I went into, helped out at local government and did more sort of like green initiatives and bike lanes and things like that. Before working for, I moved to Bath, and funny enough, I moved to a company that occupied the middle ground in the Future Publishing building. So it was like growing up reading all these magazines. It's like I know that I want to work for Future at some point. And I got in the building, but I was on the wrong floor, basically. But I loved my time there, and the team. I'm sure they won't mind, or you won't mind if I mention actual experience. They were just absolutely wonderful team, doing some really great stuff, and they were all about using tech to very clever computer science to basically improve people's digital well-being.
Yeah.
So again, it kind of like tied into my ethos of like trying to do things that were good for people. And then after that, I took a break for a while, and I really wanted to focus on doing the games media stuff. So with the encouragement of James and Holly, it was a case of, right, okay, well, we'll learn how to use Premiere. Throughout all this time, I was still writing bits and pieces, or I was making videos. Like, you don't need to have, and I think for anyone starting out, you don't need to have all the tech right away. Like, my first videos, I did it on Share Factory, which is not the easiest editor to use, but it was enough to, you can take some clips and you can piece them together and you can cut them down and duplicate and do text and graphics and things like that. So, I started doing that, and then with the encouragement of James and Holly to kind of like push forward and learn Premiere. And then it was a case of like, well, I'm now writing more stuff, and we were working together to make videos, and it really just kind of like grew and blossomed from there, I suppose. But the challenges that I came up against while I was, still working on that was, one, time. So, it takes, and we talked about it already, it takes a lot of time to create something that is, I'd rather take a long time to produce something that has a high quality than it does. If I'm putting something out every day and it's rubbish, I'd rather put something out once a month than it to be half good. It's really competitive because, and it's a great thing because it's that it's really competitive because there's so many people who are genuinely passionate about gaming. So it's wonderful that you've got all these different voices, different takes. You've got people from loads of different walks of life that are getting involved with games media, and that's wonderful because it's no longer just like this is the same voice that you hear put through the same filter all the time. You want to have those people with different life experiences, different tastes in games, to give those fresh perspectives, because a game that I really love might not be the same for, I don't know, someone on the other side of the world who is not my age. It's like, it's important to have fair representation in games media to be able to actually, like, make it a level playing field for people, and also to hopefully inspire people to maybe want to do it themselves when they grow up, and look at things objectively, that, actually this game doesn't quite tick this box, but I might want to make my own game, So there's stuff like that that's sort of, that it is challenging because it's competitive, but also you should be able to like take that and kind of run with it and go like, I have a unique voice, and don't just regurgitate what other people are saying or what you've heard or, what you've seen. It's like, find out why something works for you, and really like double down on that, and be sort of like honest with yourself about why you're doing this and why you like it or why you dislike it.
But it's encouraging as well, because I mean, like, I think I looked at the stats for Retro Dodo earlier, and 2019 started, which is around the same time I started with my stuff. Really, I mean, it's weird to say when I started, because like I say, I've got that mid 2000s period of playing 3 or 4 different new games every week, and I feel like I've got that kind of knowledge in there that I want to get out and unleash on the world for better or for worse.
It's all research.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So like, I mean, like that Sniper 2 video that I'm doing, it's probably over and all going to take me about maybe 7 or 8 hours to do the whole thing. But actually, there's me playing it ages ago as well. Like actually, like I've invested in the future as well. But it seems like there's always like new people popping up. I mean, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, but like I'll look, sometimes a new YouTuber will come up and they'll do like a long form video. There's quite a lot of people doing like long form. I think the guy was it I completed a video, I beat a video game. It does a like big long retrospect, and some of them like 7 hours long. So I discovered him through like Indiana Jones came out recently, the new film,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
he did a retrospective on every single Indiana Jones game, right? That's quite a lot of them, surprisingly. I thought there was only a few,
Yeah.
there's loads of them. And he talks about all of them and goes through it, and I think it's like a 5-hour video or something ridiculous. But like, you look at when the channel started, it's only like 2020, 2021. And it's got, you know, I think maybe 100,000 subscribers, something like that, which is, you know, again, I mean, the subscribers, it's about the views, isn't it, for like making a living, but also like that's enough exposure to get you out there meeting other people as well. So it's, you look at that, and then you look at some people that when I first started on the sort of Facebook pages of like share your videos, the sub for sub stuff back in 2019, and like most of the channels that I started with don't exist anymore. They kind of like gave up with it. And I think like I said, someone asked me like, but content creation said, just don't give up, just keep doing it, and eventually the dam will burst. I think, because if you generally, I think over time you will actually get better and develop the skill, and then the passion stays, then that's all you need. I think. I mean, I'm not talking
Yeah,
from
no,
a massive position of success or anything like that, but
well, yeah, the same here, you know, like 2 months ago I was not doing this, you know. So it's only very recently that I've actually been able to find a full-time gig where I am doing this. And it's still freelance, you know, but it is my full-time job now doing this. But, you know, at any moment it could not be my full-time job, and I'd have to go and write for somebody else or produce for somebody else. So, you know, there's that element as well, which is, you know, scary as an individual. But if you're passionate, you know, I'm particularly passionate about it and I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and it's, you know, I'll give it my all basically to try and make a success of it. And I think that's, you hold on to those things as your beliefs, as my beliefs, you know, and that's hopefully going to see me through. So
do you think being a, because I don't know, you mentioned your other jobs, but presumably you were like full-time employed there. Is it new being like a freelancer contractor type person for you, or were you contracting yourself before in the previous roles?
I've done little bits of contracting before, not a huge amount, but yeah, primarily it's always been a salaried role. You know, you're a full-time employee, you're on the books and all that sort of thing. So yeah, it is a different way of working, certainly, because there's more flexibility. And I'm very lucky with the team at Dodo, because Brandon, Seb, the whole team there, they're really lovely and just really supportive of what we're trying to do, and still definitely trying to grow all the time and trying to do better things. And, you know, the ultimate aim of sort of wanting to, you know, be almost like a premium magazine for retro gaming goodness. But, you know, they're just really nice guys at the end of the day, and just really, like I said, supportive to the nth degree. And, you know, we still have a laugh, but we have a laugh in a sort of respectful, nice manner, which isn't always the case when you come from backgrounds like ours that we have, you know, with engineering and with property. It's not always the way things are, and I think that's a historical problem which unfortunately still persists to this day, with a lot of toxicity and negativity and putting people down and people with their own agendas and things like that. But ultimately, you know, I'm very fortunate that at Retro Dodo we've got a really nice team together, and we are all pulling in the same direction.
Cool, good stuff. Is there anything else? Because I think we're pretty close to sort of time now. We'll work out a wrap there. That's all right, man. Where else can we find you? Is it obviously Retro Dodo is the main gig, or is there anything else you'd like to plug for your own?
Well, yeah, I mean, Retro Dodo is the one to go and check out. That's where I'm putting stuff up most weekdays, because we're lucky enough to still have our weekends. There's a couple of weekends where it's like, if we've got something really big on, then we'll still you'll see me posting stuff out. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Theo Litston. Nice and easy, just my name. And yeah, apart from that, you can go and check out our video stuff over at JHT, which we will, you know, return to at some point in the future once puppies are a bit older and houses have been completed. But yeah, apart from that, that's where you can find me.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
So yeah, thank you, Jack. Been great.
Cheers.